Live from Gulfstream Park in South Florida, this is a special edition of Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America live from Gulfstream Park. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Thanks also to our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. Also for their hospitality, another nice weekend of being treated to the Florida weather, which actually isn't that nice this morning. It was nice when Sully and I got in yesterday. A little overcast, but it was partly sunny during the afternoon, and the temperature up near 70 during the day yesterday. But this morning, as we sit here on the second floor, our usual perch overlooking the paddock at Gulfstream, it's raining. And for Florida, a little chilly. It's not Albany chilly, but it's a little chilly down here. I think it's supposed to rain most of the day. We have been told, keep your eyes open, but unofficially 1, 3, and 5 are off the turf, which is unfortunate. That third race, the nice rematch Stormy Liberal and World of Trouble, unfortunately comes off the turf. So we'll see. But it's, as I say, unofficially at this point, 1, 3, and 5. We'll know officially within the next hour or so. I say unofficially because it was via Mark Hennig tweet. Mark's pretty good with those changes up in New York and down here in Florida as well. But keep your eyes and ears open as far as the weather during the afternoon. Ran around when we got in yesterday. Sully Crotty and I will be here all afternoon today with live cut-ins. And we got here yesterday. Sully was out on the backstretch, took some pictures and whatnot, and sent some tweets out from all around the facility. I was running around trying to get some interviews and did manage to get some nice conversation with a variety of folks because obviously on the big weekend, a lot of the racing world is down here at Gulfstream Park. Last year, we managed to get a lot of interviews on Pegasus World Cup Day. This year, I can't guarantee that because with the rain, this place may become a crowded kind of a zoo, which it was last year, but with the outdoors and the better weather, people had more room to mingle around. But getting, for instance, from our second floor perch down to the winner's circle took some time last year. If the place gets a little more crowded, it may be tough to come up with some of the interviews or the volume that we did last year. We'll do our best, though, to catch up with some of the connections as the day progresses today. But as I say, yesterday we did talk to a variety of folks, including Kiaran, McLaughlin, Irad, Ortiz, a couple of days after he won the Eclipse Award. Those will be coming up a little bit later. But our buddy Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum, he's a regular with us up at Saratoga, but his home ground is right down here at Gulfstream. So I thought, who better to touch base with and get some ideas on the Pegasus World Cup card. Mike, of course, also watching workouts for a lot of the horses down here and whatnot. So up next, Mike Welch, Daily Racing Forum. Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum. Big day on Saturday. Want to get some opinions. Pegasus World Cup Invitational highlights the day. Why don't we start there and we'll work our way backwards. Looks like it goes through Accelerate and City of Light, but Gunavera over the track looks interesting. What are your thoughts on the Pegasus?
Well, I agree. I think it's still City of Light and Accelerate, the two Breeders' Cup winners, are the ones to beat in here. Luckily for them, they were, they drew favorably down near the inside. You don't want to get too far out here, post position wise, with that short run to the first turn. They're the two best horses in the race. They're both training extremely well, from what I've seen on tape, from what I heard from my clocker out there. Both of them were excellent there, and City of Light looked tremendous here in his easy breeze, easy half-mile bullet last week with a big gallop out. So, it may just come down to the trip. They still got to get through that first turn in good position without getting shuffled back a little bit too much, or maybe avoid, in one of their cases, a potential speed duel with Pattern Recognition, who is going to be on the engine right from the start from post 12. So I think it comes down to those two. I mean, last year it looked like it was Gunrunner was going to win. West Coast had to be second, and then who do you like for third? It's not as clear cut here, but I think they're still the two the top choices.
You're here, you watch every day. You mentioned Pattern Recognition. Is he just up against it from that outside post? But he does have the early speed.
Yeah, I mean, now he's just going to have to be harder used early to make sure he clears. He can't afford to get hung out and not get the lead. So it's definitely going to compromise his chances. And look, he's still a question mark at the distance as well. So, maybe the track will be so speed conducive, it'll carry him a little further. But I think all in all, any post position, but especially from where he is, he's probably a little bit up against it. But, Gunnevera, we know he likes this track. His running style not conducive to the way this track usually plays, but he picks up a lot of pieces and a lot of money in these races. And, he works. He's not the greatest workhorse in the world. You could watch him and you would never play him watching him work in the morning, but he saves it for the afternoon, and that's what you want. And I think he's definitely a horse that could get in the number somewhere. And if things get, too heated up front, who knows? Maybe he'll finally get that grade 1 that they've been looking for with him.
As I said, you watch every day, so I'll ask you what I've said during the handicapping show the last couple of weeks. Antonio Sano, probably 4 weeks ago, was ice cold. Last couple of weeks, he's heated up.
Yeah, no, he has been on a little bit of a roll of late, and that's significant. These things go in cycles. Whether it carries over to a $9 million race or not, I'm not sure. But, this horse is going to bring his game here in the afternoon. And, then the other variable, too, when we're taping this, and the weather is a little iffy, too. So we could kind of get a bit of a wet track, and that could play into the final result as well. Something awesome. Looked terrific here working over a muddy strip the other day, and he's got credentials to, maybe not win it, but get a piece.
Let's move to the turf race, a new addition to the Pegasus World Cup card with the condition of the no Lasix getting the 7 pounds draws in a Japanese horse and a Aidan O'Brien horse who are coming in at 112. As I've talked to people today about the race, they're making that some significant kind of a factor in if you want to take a look at those two horses. To me, the two Bill Motts are interesting. I'm going to go towards Channel Maker, but I think you can make a case for quite a few in here. Bricks and Mortar, Delta Prince, Catapult. Your thoughts on the turf?
Yeah, I think it's an extremely wide open race, and even though Yoshida is on paper maybe slightly the horse to beat, I don't know if you want to take a short price in this wide open a field. And you did mention Channel Maker. He was my top pick, and he also took advantage. Bill Mott must feel that his horse is not a bleed candidate without the Lasix. He decided to take the 7 pounds, and with a horse of his capabilities, that's no small matter. We know he classes up with most of these in here, so getting a 7-pound weight shift can be pretty significant at a mile and 3/16. So I thought Channel Maker with the right trip could be right there. The two foreign horses, the two fillies, again 12 pounds is a lot. Hard to tell how they class up here. I'm not sure Magic Wand on numbers anyway maybe not be as good as these. And Aerolith, she's run and beaten the boys in Japan. It's just hard to tell, trying to do some research and see who she beat over there, but it's a little hard to see how they would class up, whether it's the same caliber. But she's looked terrific here training, so I could go for her. I could go for sure for Bricks and Mortar. This horse come off a long layoff, came back with a big win, and Chad said he came out of the race a lot fitter than he went in, so he's expecting a big effort there too. Although, as is the case with pattern recognition, a mile and 3/16 in this case is a question mark for him too.
All right, let's move on a little bit earlier on the card because a nice card. Accelerated course won the Eclipse is the older male, but we have a couple other Eclipse winners on the card also, and one of those is in the Hurricane Birdie, Shamrock Rose. I put her underneath. I'm going to take a shot with Blamed. I think that horse has some potential for Bill Mott. Dream Pauline, certainly for Kiaran, is also interesting coming out of the Sugar Swirl win. Your thoughts on the Hurricane Birdie?
Well, I picked it the same way. I picked Blamed on top. Just looking for a little value. Shamrock Rose obviously is going to be overbet coming off the Breeders' Cup win and now the Eclipse Award win. And, she has a little bit of early speed to get close, but her last 2 wins now, she's come from way back off it, and that's not the kind of style that usually wins races here at Gulfstream Park. So that could prove to be an issue if she gets back a little too far with a little too much to do. Basically, for me, it's a price play, though. Blamed coming off a mile and an eighth race, turning back to a sprint, but she's got speed, too, and coming off those longer races, if she could get her head in front, at the top of the stretch over this shorter stretch, I think she can hold on. So that's the way I played it as well.
All right, and finally, let's take a look at the race that kicks off the stakes action, and a great way to kick it off with yet another Eclipse winner. Stormy Liberal and World of Trouble will face off in here. I have them 1-2. I like Stormy Liberal in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, so I'm going to stick there. But World of Trouble certainly is going to make this a very intriguing edition of the Gulfstream Turf Sprint. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the two horses ran buyer numbers that were just off the charts. And as far as World of Trouble went, it sort of held up. He came off the turf last time to a sloppy main track and still, ran off the screen, got a 109 buyer for that effort. And I just think over this sort of a speed-conducive turf course, he's going to get first run over Stormy Liberal, and I think this time, unlike in the Breeders' Cup, I think he's going to be able to hold him off. So it looks like a two-horse race on paper. Pay any price. I mean, he loves this track, but I'm just not sure he's quite the same horse he was here last year or the year before when he set the world record over this strip. I think he maybe has lost a step or two. He ran off 5 in a row last year, but it was against far inferior competition. So I make it a two-horse race, and I'm going to take World of Trouble to upset the Breeders' Cup champion.
Very good, Mike. Always appreciate the conversation. Look forward to your coverage on Saturday in the DRF.
Don't forget the clock report too. We got a lot of information there. A couple of maiden races on the card with many first-time starters, and we got our team all over the country. Even reports out of California. So probably worth the $10 or whatever we're charging for it.
Always highly recommended, Mike. Thanks. Thanks to Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum for taking time to give us some ideas on some of the action this afternoon. Also highly touted that Daily Racing Forum workout report. We talk about it during Saratoga when he sits in with us, and it's a great tool up at Saratoga because of the maiden races. Well, there's some nice maiden races on the card today that workout report might be helpful for as well. Also yesterday, caught up with trainer Kiaran McLaughlin, talked a little bit about Dream Pauline. She's in the Hurricane Birdie. True Timber, a little bit of a price in the big race this afternoon. We also got some info there. And 2 weeks ago, actually, Kiaran had a horse called Flush that broke its maiden, a nice little New York-bred filly up in New York. So we got an update on what might be next for Flush. All of that, Kiaran McLaughlin, up next. All right, you got a couple in on Pegasus World Cup card, and let's go to Dream Pauline first. Pretty lightly raced 4-year-old. Won the Sugar Swirl last time. Mainly 6 furlongs, so tries the 7 furlongs tomorrow. What do you think of the distance?
Yeah, I think she actually wants further than 7 sometime, but her races have been spaced so much it's hard to ever get in the rhythm to go from 6 to 7 to a mile. But she's never been better. She's doing great. Should run well.
What was your takeaway from the Sugar Swirl?
It was a great race. We were a little worried late, but Javier says she was waiting on the other filly, so that was great. She's a very nice filly and doing very well, and if it happens to be wet, she handled the wet last time.
Let's go to the Pegasus World Cup itself. True Timber, but more of a sprinter throughout the career. What about the distance for True Timber?
Yeah, it's a question mark, but he's older, stronger, more mature now than he was when he was 4th in the Wood Memorial as a 3-year-old. But the distance is a question mark, and the competition's a big question mark. That's why we're 30-1. But he's doing great, and we hope if he repeats his last race, he could hit the board. Did run a good second behind pattern recognition in the Cigar Mile. What was your takeaway from that one? Yeah, he galloped out real strong, and he ran very well. It was the best race to date, and like I said, if he could run that again, we might hit the board. Tough race. And I just want to go back a couple of weeks because up at Aqueduct, you had a nice 3-year-old New York-bred filly, Flush, by Violence, bred to win early, and in the second career start, won pretty nicely. What's the future look like for Flush? We might run her in the stake up there on the 23rd of February. Franklin Square, maybe. I'm not sure of the name, but anyway, try her in a stake. And she might end up being turf. She has a lot of turf in her family, but we're happy she handled the dirt well last time. As a trainer, do you agree with me? I like the Violence offspring as win early types. Yes, I like Violence. Another one of the Todd Pletcher great sires that he trained. He has a list of them so long, but I like the sire because he's by Medaglia too. Kiaran, good luck this weekend. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thanks again to trainer Kiaran McLaughlin. Good luck to him this afternoon and going forward. Yeah, keep your eyes on that nice little New York-bred filly of his, Flush. She may be one to keep our eyes on as the season progresses up in New York. All right, we're going to head to a break. When we come back, again, we caught up with Irad Ortiz. Just a couple of quick minutes from him as he was coming back from a race yesterday. And also after that, Tommy Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds. They've had some good runners in the past couple of weeks, and they have one on the card this afternoon. They'll both be up right after this break. Stay tuned. Racing Across America continues live from Gulfstream Park.
running upset under Gary Stevens. Heavily prized was second. You have just witnessed a felony.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrill live from Gulfstream Park. We are overlooking the paddock from our second floor perch. If you're familiar with Gulfstream Park, we're right in front of 10 Palms. Tim Ritvo walking by right now. Big day ahead. You ready? You ready for it? They're looking forward to a big day here this afternoon with Pegasus World Cup and the Pegasus Turf obviously highlighting, but lots of nice stakes races on the undercard as well. And on board some horses in those important races will be Irad Ortiz. Caught up with him, just got a couple of minutes from yesterday because I was walking up the path from the track to the Jocks room. So we got a couple of minutes with Irad, but I wanted to talk to him because a couple of nights ago won an Eclipse Award, and on the Handicappers Report earlier, Brian Addo and I were talking. I'm not sure any other brothers have been up for the Eclipse Award in the same year as have the Ortiz brothers, although we decided maybe last year. I meant to look that up. But Irad got up, made a nice acceptance speech, came up with his daughter who kind of stole the show. I'm thinking she's maybe 3-4 years old, and she was great up there. Irad, as I said, had a nice speech and dedicated things to his brother Jose. So it was nice. As I say, caught up with Irad. He's also going to talk a little bit about pattern recognition, of course, in the big race with the early speed, what the game plan is there. World of Trouble, now that one potentially off the turf, that third race, that stakes race. World of Trouble probably has this one over a barrel. But we talked about those and a little bit more with Irad Ortiz. He's up next. Congratulations on the Eclipse Award.
Thank you very much.
We certainly are familiar up in New York and up in Saratoga. What's it mean to win the Eclipse? And how special was it to be in there with your brother as a finalist?
I mean, it's a good feeling when you compete against your brother for Eclipse Award. So I was so happy. So either one won yesterday, I mean, staying between us. So that's great. He's a great competitor. He's a great jockey too. So we just enjoyed the moment.
And it seemed like the whole family enjoyed the moment. You referred to your father out there, and your daughter was one of the hits of the evening.
Yeah, they were so happy for us.
Let me talk a little bit about Saturday. You have Guinevere in the Pegasus. With the come-from-behind style on this track, does that concern you?
I mean, it's, probably going to be fast tomorrow, but, I don't want to take the horse out of his style. So I just try to ride my race and ride it with confidence.
The horse certainly has a good record over the track, so he likes this track, and he's proven
he's all right here. Yeah, hopefully.
Let's talk a little bit about the turf race. You're on bricks and mortar. Nice win here the other day. Really one of the best races of his career. How do you figure on him coming into?
He's all right. He's doing good. He's doing great. Thank you, Kiaran. He's doing great. I mean, hopefully we got a good trip.
And just want to touch on one more in the turf sprint, World of Trouble. He can go back and forth, turf or dirt, but returns to the turf on Saturday.
Nice horse. He always try. I mean, I think he's going to do a good race.
Good, Nicoletti. Congratulations on the Eclipse. Irad Ortiz, as I said, we just caught up with him a couple of minutes as he came off the track yesterday and was headed back to the Jocks room. Appreciate the time. Also, Tom Bellhouse was in town. West Point Thoroughbreds. Talked a little bit about some of his nice horses over the past few weeks, including Gunmetal Gray and Galilean. And I kind of confused the two momentarily during the interview, and he corrected me. Galilean is the nice Calbred they have. Gunmetal Gray, of course, won the Sham a couple of weeks ago. But we caught up with both of those and the plans going forward. Also talked Kanthaka, who ran second last weekend out in Southern California to Eclipse winner Roy H. That was a nice second-place finish. And, of course, today, breaking lucky in the Hooper, Tom Bellhouse is up next.
Tom Bellhouse, West Point Thoroughbreds, down for the big day. And, of course, you have one in on the big day. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I had Terry Finley from West Point on probably 3 weeks ago. And I said to Terry, you guys have been on a roll. And I didn't realize, doing the handicapping show in the afternoon, I saw the Silks. But I went back, and from the beginning of December to when I talked to Terry, probably about 5 weeks, 12 wins in that period. You guys are on a nice little roll at the beginning of this year and the end of last year. Just talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty magical, to be honest with you. It's very, I don't know, I kid about it all the time. It's really hard to win a race. And when you get on a roll like that, and during the summer in Saratoga, we felt we just couldn't get out of our own way. We were lucky to win one with Grand Motion, Archer the Diver off a 2-year layoff. And we had some really, really nice horses we were excited about. It just felt like we just couldn't connect. And then lo and behold, right before the first of the year, we won a couple stakes. And then coming into the beginning of the year, Gunmetal Gray and a couple on the West Coast with Jerry Hollendorfer and John Sheriffs. And then sure enough, we come back here, and things are really going in the right direction. We're excited about the stable. We've bought more horses than we've ever bought in the stable before, and really feel like we're positioned to have a monster 2019. Now, anybody who's been around this game knows as soon as you feel a moment of confidence, it'll be snatched away from you. But we feel really good about the horses that we bought last year, and hope it'll be a fun year, and maybe even have a couple on the Derby Trail as we go over the next 3 months.
Certainly Gunmetal Gray looks good in that category, having finished in front of that potential Baffert monster out in the Sham a couple of weeks ago. We talked with Terry about that. Also talked with Terry in reference in the future when we talked to Terry, but now it's about a week back, Kanthaka in the Palos Verdes. Yeah, you had to be happy with the result. I mean, second is never the way you want it to go, but you ran second to the Eclipse winner in Roy H.
Well, Roy H is a monster. I mean, it's just, Breeders' Cup horse, and the fact that I don't believe 6 furlongs is probably our best distance with Kanthaka. Probably looking more at that 7 furlong magic number, if maybe a stretch to a 1-turn mile. But to run that competitively against Roy H really was a feather in our cap. And I think going forward, we'll look to run one more time out there. And if things go our way, maybe we get lucky. We get to bring this horse to New York for the Carter and see that 7 furlong 1-turn miles. See if we can get him a great stakes win on the East Coast.
Speaking of the future, I should have asked you when we brought up Gunmetal Gray. Terry was still kind of thinking maybe another Calbred stake and then step up into open company. Is that still the game plan?
Actually, that's Galilean.
Galilean, you're right.
Galilean, that's exactly what the plan is for Galilean. He's probably one of the most exciting horses we've ever bought. He was very expensive, and Uncle Mo, and he debuted in a stake, which is very unusual for us. We came back and lost by a nose to a Baffert horse in his second stake. Then he came and just won by the length of his stretch in his third start. Really, that Calbred status is almost a true blessing for us here, because if we can get him another start going 2 turns against Calbred competition, we feel like we'll have a seasoned horse, and we'll have a seasoned horse to take a swing in maybe the Santa Anita Derby or a race like that to see if he's good enough to go on the Triple Crown Trail. But he's an exciting horse. Now, Gunmetal Gray, I believe we're going to go to the Bob Lewis. I think that was up in the air originally, but right now I think Jerry's pointing towards the Bob Lewis. See if we can rack up a few more Derby points before all the big guns come back. I know Instagram and Game Winner and all that are looking probably at the San Felipe a few weeks later. So if we can get another win under our belt and really put us in the middle of things, we'll have a lot of options, we'll have a lot of points, and then we can decide where in the country we want to go for our final prep before the big race if we're lucky.
Yeah, it'd be fun to watch you guys in the Kentucky Derby, certainly, and we know you like to shoot for those big events. And Saturday, Pegasus World Cup card with great undercard stakes races as well, and you have Breaking Lucky in the Fred Hooper. Tried the Pegasus last year, now you come back in the Fred Hooper, but you come in off a nice optional claiming win beginning of December right over this track.
Yeah, this is an exciting horse over the years. We were in the inaugural Pegasus with him, and he really really is just a cool horse. When you see him in the paddock, you're never going to see a prettier copper chestnut horse than him. He's run with the big boys. He almost shocked the world up in Saratoga a couple of years ago in the Woodward, and might be the best race he ever ran in his career. So we've been a part of him for about 2 years now, and we're excited. We're hoping that allowance win that George had him really ready, and he fired from the rail. We have a great post. We got Luis Saez. He's going to probably put him on top or near the top, and see where we go. But after his last race, he's given us a lot of reason for optimism, and maybe one turn might be his future for the rest of the year for his 6-year-old campaign.
Got to get one more in for our viewers because you have a nice win coming up on Saturday at Aqueduct and an allowance. Go Get the Money. What's he look like up at Aqueduct?
Well, Go Get the Money is another horse that we own in partnership with Rob Masiello, and Rob has always been super high. He's a very striking, gorgeous son of Munnings. He came back off the layoff and ran his eyeballs out. We've given him plenty of time. We're hoping we're avoiding the bounce after an effort like that. But right now, I think we expect a big effort out of him. I haven't seen the field, so I can't comment on what we are odds-wise. But right now, I think we're sitting on a big effort, and everybody's excited to see where he may go.
You and I were talking before we started recording. You've been up in Ocala this past week. I talked to Terry a couple of weeks ago. It's that time of year, 2-year-old season, so I know you guys are up there probably scouting things out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had the largest group of yearlings we've ever had, so to go and see the progress of those horses at this time where they've been under saddle for a few months and starting to develop personalities and such as far as racing or in their training. And then also seeing some of the top consigners that we do business with at the March sale and the April sale in Ocala, to just see what they're feeling and looking at some of their babies 2-3 months out from the sales and see who's progressing. And we've got some great relationships. We do business with Eddie Woods. We think he's by far the best guy in all of racing at developing young horses. And we go and hit a few farms and we check things out. We've always had great luck with our friends over at Krupe's Newcastle. JJ Krupe and Johnny Sacco do a great job there, and we have a couple horses over there as well. So we'll be excited. It's that fun time of year, Seth, where last year, and I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, American Pharoah hadn't had his debut for the year yet, and Justify hadn't even started a race yet last year at this time. So, the big horse might not even have started yet. So that's the great part of this. And somebody who might be a household name in 3-4 months, we might not even know about yet.
I say it every afternoon during the OTB live show when one of your horses shows up. I always like to root for the West Point Thoroughbred Silks because local guys, a lot of local guys involved, and you guys are based locally. Always fun to root for the locals, so I wish you good luck on the weekend and going forward as well.
Thanks, Seth, and we really we love being down here, and it's exciting. I know all our friends up in the Capital District are keeping warm today, but hopefully we can make them some money this afternoon.
Good luck. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Good luck to our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds, breaking lucky today in the Hooper, and of course going forward, Gunmetal Gray and Galilean, a couple of nice 3-year-olds, and always fun to have a 3-year-old with some talent at this time of year. So as I say, good luck to them. Speaking of, and we like to root for our friends at West Point, because I said to Tom, a lot of local connections there. And speaking of local connections, as Sully Crotty and I flew out of Albany yesterday, we were approached by a gentleman who recognized us from television and came up and said one of the co-owners of Catapult. So hopefully, maybe potentially some local connections in the winner's circle on that big turf race this afternoon. We got to knock wood here, though. I said when we came on the air it was raining. It looks like it's let up. But still overcast, and as they say, a little bit chilly for Florida. It's not Albany chilly, but chilly for Florida anyway. So we'll see how the day plays out. Again, we have been told unofficially via the Mark Hennig tweet, 1, 3, and 5 are off the turf this afternoon. Keep your ears to the ground, though, for official announcements and any changes that may be made due to the weather. But as I say, right now, I'm looking at some puddles in the paddock. Still raining, but it does seem like it's a little bit less than it was when we went on about a half an hour or so ago. All right, all of that, though, brings us up to our next break. When we come back, Pat Cummings from the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. He is in town. We caught up with him, a little update on the TIF. They have another paper coming out, and we got updated on that. That'll be something to look forward to next week. Pat also had a real opinion in the Pegasus turf. Ron Nicoletti also will join us after the break. Got some opinions from Ron. Of course, the handicapper down here that you see in the paddock each and every day before the races. So all of that's coming up after this break. Please stay tuned.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
But Game On Dude is just battling them all off. Game On Dude has the lead. Here's Drosselmeyer out of the clouds. Drosselmeyer from nowhere. And Drosselmeyer and Mike Smith have beaten Chantel Sutherland on Game On Dude.
Not at the track and not near a computer? No problem. Wager with Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System and you'll never get shut out again. Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System is quick, simple to use, and guarantees your wagers are accurate and placed on time. For more information, visit CapitalOTB.com or call Capital OTB's customer service hotline at 800-292-BETS. Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System. Never get shut out again.
Welcome back to Racing Across America live from Gulfstream Park. Seth Merrill in this morning. Be joined this afternoon by Sully Karate as we'll have live cut-ins all afternoon long from Gulfstream Park. Again, we're at our usual perch overlooking the paddock from the second floor. Again, if you're familiar with Gulfstream Park, we're right outside 10 Palms. So picture that. We'll certainly tweet out some photos ourselves during the afternoon so you can look for those as well. All right, let's jump back into the interviews. Again, caught up with some folks right around the facility here yesterday as we got in just around lunchtime, and so bounced around and caught up with a number of people. And Pat Cummings from the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation in town for the weekend. We talked to him this summer when they had the paper out on breakage, which is a great issue that hopefully gets some push for the industry because it's a little bit of an archaic concept at this point. Subsequently, they put out a paper on stewards and the way races are adjudicated. That also an important issue, maybe more important now in the world of sports in general after what we saw on the football side of things at the playoffs last weekend. All of a sudden, a lot of those complaints on the racing side of things don't seem as bad when we look at the Saints game. But again, certainly room for improvement, and there's paper on that was interesting. But next week, sports betting. They'll have a paper out on that. So Pat touches on that, a few other topics, updating us on the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. And again, had an interesting take and a pretty strong opinion in that Pegasus turf this afternoon as well. So let's send it off to Pat Cummings, Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. Joined now by Pat Cummings from the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. Pat, we haven't talked to you since Saratoga. You were pretty new to the TIF at that point, but give us an update. Thoroughbred Idea Foundation, where are you now?
Well, thanks, Seth. It's it's been an interesting road to kind of get to where we are. We started essentially in the summer, and have kind of launched a few kind of research projects to delve into some topics that the industry maybe has not looked all that progressively at for a while. One was the breakage topic and parimutuel breakage. And, for New York State, you are in a very unique position in New York because New York has had the most liberal breakage policies in America for 25 years and given back countless millions of dollars to players. But there is a chance to go a step farther, and we think it would yield a great benefit, not just to players in New York, but anybody that plays New York racing, and that the rest of the country could fall in line and start to give back some of this money, because the purposes of breakage were very meaningful up until the 70s. And Interstate Horse Racing Act started to change that. ADW's changed that in the last 20 years. It's time for the industry to get a little more progressive, especially in light of the increased competition in the market, and I'll talk about that in a second. We issued another paper that is advocating for North America to switch from the current model of stewarding, which is known as Category 2, over to Category 1. Every single major jurisdiction in the world, even France, has changed. And about 3 or 4 years ago, the French said, no, we're not going to change, and they did this year. And I think it would be a very friendly thing for horse players, far fewer disqualifications. The best horse tends to win, and the burden goes on the best horse. Or the benefit goes to the best horse in the race, the horse that wins, and you really have to prove a lot to get taken down in this model, and it's in place everywhere else. So if you're betting races overseas, you're getting that model, but in the U.S. and Canada, you're not, and we think there is an opportunity to communicate that better to customers. It's a modern, friendly approach to do it, and it respects bettors who have picked a winning horse, and it keeps those winning horses up more. Our next paper is going to come out next week, and it really delves into sports betting. And racing has kind of talked about what's going to happen for us in sports betting. Can we get a slice of the action? We don't think that's a good idea. It's not a good road to go down. It's about how racing can compete in a legal sports betting environment. The market is evolving so rapidly. It's been defined as an American betting gold rush. It truly is. And we're going to come up with some recommendations and publish those next week at racingthinktank.com that will espouse what we think the racing industry needs to do to be out in front of this as much as it can.
And I was keeping up with the symposium out in Arizona at the end of the year. I know you were active out there, and it's important, obviously, for your ideas to get traction for the racing industry to be involved. How has the reaction been from the racing industry to the TIF?
Look, overall pretty good, but I think in general, most people don't know how to react. They ask kind of the same questions you ask. How's it going? What's going on? There is no blueprint for this. There is no model that we're following. It's a new organization founded by some very concerned industry stakeholders, our board members, who really span the spectrum of the sport, from breeding and ownership and horsemen and professional bettors. There's a little bit of everybody involved, and they want this sport to change and improve and get better, not just for themselves, but for everybody that's a part of it. And at some point, I think we're going to get to that tipping point where the industry finally does start to make the meaningful changes that it needs to. And we're not talking about federal bills. We're not talking about LASIX. We're not talking about third rail issues. We're talking about the broken windows that existed for a very long time, or that frankly are going to get pushed, are going to get broken on our doorstep because of the developments in other areas of the gaming sector, and to try and espouse change in that respect. So, there was a great quote from Seth Klarman from Klarovich Stables, but he was talking about the global financial markets, but he said, if you don't evolve, you're part of the problem. The same thing applies to racing. If you are not someone who wants to evolve and who wants to solve problems, you're part of it. And this industry just needs to evolve at a much faster pace.
Yeah, and again, we've touted the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation since its inception. As I say, we had you on in the summertime. Great idea to get those ideas and push them forward in an industry that typically, historically, has been a little reluctant to move forward.
Yeah, without question. But I say the only thing that happens with any real speed in this industry is the running of the races. And everything else is slow and methodical and storied, tradition bound. It doesn't have to be that way. We can move forward. And frankly, one of the things that I've uncovered in both the research and in discussions with various industry stakeholders, not enough people take this sport seriously enough. They don't take it seriously enough as a sporting enterprise. And I think there's a portion of the population that really wants that to happen. They want that organization. They want that framework. They want to make that happen. They want that that seriousness. And with that comes the need to change other things, an increase in transparency and integrity, and a much greater focus to just bolster the professionalism of racing. And if people are wondering what exactly I'm talking about, that would be like not just stewarding in the categories, but the way in which the stewards interact with the public, the way in which they communicate to the public. And if you look professionally at how it's done in other successful racing jurisdictions, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, places that are thriving, that are growing, it's almost the exact opposite of how it's done in America. We don't take ourselves seriously enough as a collective sport. I think part of the reason for that is the desperate nature, individual state controls, but at some point, people have to get together and say, we either have to get better or get going. And now we think is as good a time as any.
And again, highly tell people to visit the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation website, read those papers, and make their own comments. You tell people, fans, to jump in and give ideas as well.
Yeah, and we've actually had a couple submitted to us. We probably had about 50 submitted in our first kind of request for submissions, and we selected 9 of them to publish to the public. And actually, we're giving away money in their names to racing-related charities. And there was a tie. Our board votes on the winners. And we just published this at the website this week. The tie was between student pricing for big racing events, which is something that England has done, and one of the submitters had experienced when she was studying abroad and said, I had this unbelievable experience at British Champions Day because they tailored it to us. It wasn't just a big event, but there was an area for students to engage at a price point that was appropriate for them. Our board really liked that. And then also was the idea of some sort of turf tarping system to save races from having to get rained off the grass. And we actually contracted some research to, New York is a great example. It felt like a lot of races got rained off the turf this year at Saratoga and at NYRA in general. And the answer is almost 2 times as many in the last 2 years, or almost as many in 2018 as there were in 16 and 17 combined. In the last 5 years, NYRA's lost 641 races, and we tried to estimate, and it was very approximate, how much money was lost in handle from those races being moved turf to dirt and the loss of field size. And the answer was almost $440 million in handle. Now, we think that's a bit of an overestimate. We don't think the number's actually that high. But if the number's half that, Seth, doesn't a racing operator want to get $220 million in handle as opposed to losing it or having it spread out over less competitive product? So it was a very simple idea submitted by a small owner in New York who said, I'm sick and tired of losing races off the turf and I haven't had these opportunities. And so it kind of got us thinking, could this happen? Could this be engineered? Frankly, America's the easiest place for it to happen because our courses are so confined. It's not like England where these wide sweeping out in the middle of field type situations. It's actually a manageable situation. So it got us thinking, and maybe it will prompt some others to do the same and maybe innovate in that direction.
Very interesting. All right, let's shift gears. And, we're all here this weekend, a lot of familiar faces in town from the industry like yourself, but we're here for the Pegasus World Cup. I know you've got some thoughts on the turf as well. Want to get into that. But first, the big race, Accelerate, City of Light. Guinevere is interesting to me. What are your thoughts on the Pegasus?
I just prefer City of Light. I think he'll be a little more forwardly placed. He'll get the trip. I think there's something to be said here about the short stretches and the long turns that favor those horses that are a bit more forwardly placed. Horses that may, struggle, that you think would struggle to get the distance, can get a little more because the turns kind of help them into that. I know that's a little anecdotal, but I just think City of Light is more prepared for this than Accelerate. You know what? I couldn't help but think, I know the works have looked okay, but, this horse that's going to be favored in this race today has already been paraded in front of the breeders. And there's just something in my head that makes you think, oh, is this horse's mind really going to be on this task? Now, his works have looked good, but I think there's maybe a little bit of value in City of Light, and so I would go in that direction. Guinevere obviously loves the track. I still don't think it's going to be long enough for him against this type of quality. I think he needs every bit of that mile and a 3/16 or a quarter to get there, but I'm pulling for Mike McCarthy and City of Light.
You like the speed. Is pattern recognition out too far?
It's very tough to win from that far. I remember doing the numbers a couple years back. I think 8 to 12 was just diabolical. Frankly, I really wish they had made this race a mile and 3/16 like they did the turf race. I think it would give a more fair shot to those horses that are drawn wider.
The turf race, you and I were talking before we sat down to record, and I know you have some opinions in that. Brian Netto and I did the handicapper support earlier, and we were talking about the no Lasix weight off angle, and that's something that factors into your thoughts in the big turf race.
It's huge, Seth. It's really huge. Irolith she's a very good horse on her own right. Second in the Yasuda Kinen, one of the great mile races in the world. She is, she's very deserving of this opportunity. Intent to me is one of the great intangibles of international racing. They've intended to come to the States for several months, so this hasn't been kind of a last-minute, project or thought. But the fact that if this horse was coming in off level weights with Yoshida, then I'd say 124 each of them with the draws. Yeah, I'd maybe favor Yoshida. But to give a quality animal like this, who races forward, long turns, short stretches, a 12-pound break, I think it's a gift. It's a huge gift. Florent Giroux's going to do every bit of it, and I really give her a monster chance. And if she's anywhere near the 8-1, I don't think she will be, but I think she's fair value at 4-1. I'd probably have her about 3-1 in my own line. So I really like her in this spot. And frankly, you need to move up Magic Wand as a result too. Getting the same filly allowance, getting the same Lasix break. It's a move up for me. I don't know if she's going to be as competitive as them, but Irolith for me is the horse that I want with the weight. 12 pounds over a mile and 3/16. Good draw, forwardly placed. It matters a lot.
Pat, always appreciate the conversation. Good luck going forward with the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks to Pat Cummings. And again, Thoroughbred Idea Foundation, I've touted it since its inception, middle of last year. Just as a group that is kind of pushing some new ideas, and the industry can certainly use more of that. So, Racing Think Tank, you can check out their website. The two papers that are already out, if you haven't read those, on breakage and stewards and racing adjudication. And then next week, I'll alert you. We'll have a link over on Equidaily, and I'll alert you on OTB TV as well when the sports betting paper comes out from Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. All right. We'll move on now. Ron Nicoletti caught up with Ron, sat on the TV set with Ron for a couple of minutes yesterday after one of his pre-race commentaries, and we got some ideas on some action this afternoon from Ron, including his long shot pick. And Ron's long shots have been paying attention this season, really all the time, not just this season, but they've been doing okay. So we got his long shot pick for this afternoon as well. Ron Nicoletti from Gulfstream Park, up next. Ron Nicoletti, always fun to talk to Ron. Always happy to be down here in the warm weather and have you sitting in next to me. It's always fun up in Saratoga when we have you, but like to be down here. You guys treat us well, and it's a big day. Let's jump in and get some thoughts. Race number 9 on Saturday, the Fred Hooper Grade 3 event, 1 mile. I went out to the number 8 in here. I used Coppertown. I mean, obviously, this is a Pletcher horse that has a lot of potential. I'm going to kind of draw a line through the Cigar Mile. I don't like a horse that has trouble in 2 straight races. That scares me a little bit, but I think this is a horse with some real talent. What are your thoughts on the Hooper?
Well, I was really impressed with Cole Town stretching out to a mile. He broke from post 11 last time and drew clear to win the 7 furlong Grade 3, Mr. Prospector. I was so impressed. He was razor sharp. Todd Pletcher, you're getting Johnny Velasquez. First outing at 8 furlongs. That's a little bit of a concern, but this horse just... one of those where you look at it and go, wow, so I'm putting that one on top. I'm using Aztec Sense. And I didn't know, Breaking Lucky, I keep going back to this horse. Grade 1 stakes place, 7-year-old. Signally was back. He returned. He really walloped those $62,500 optional claimers at the same 1-turn mile distance. So Cold Front, I was just enamored. I don't know if he's going to get hooked up in a duel. I thought it was a spectacular performance.
And Breaking Lucky, I just talked to Tommy Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds, and I had Terry Finley on a couple of weeks ago. They've been on a roll since the beginning of December. So when a barn gets a little bit hot like that, you got to throw one in the mix.
Oh, you got to throw him in the mix. And like I said, I'm always going back to that horse when I'm doing this race. But like I said, once I see a race like Cold Fronts, I sort of get stuck on it.
All right, let's go chronologically, move to the McKnight, scheduled on the turf. Again, potentially as we tape on Friday. A little weather on Saturday, but I think it's moderated out, so it looks like it's going to be better than it did a couple days ago.
Yeah, and you would think they're going to keep these races on the turf, so you have to just think maybe it'll be a little cut in the ground. But this race I think is a fantastic betting race for me. I went with the 4 Zulu Alpha, who won the Grade 3 Sycamore at this 12 furlong distance. So my handicapping theory was here: who can run at 12 furlongs? And this one is stretching out for Mike Maker. Really failed to mount that rally when finishing 7th. That was in the Fort Lauderdale. I just thought the Son of Street Cry, Irad Ortiz Jr., of course, just won the Eclipse Award. I like this horse going 12 furlongs.
I'm right with you. I was going to say, I'm interested to see where you're going in a race where I think you can make a case for a few of them, and I don't think you can have a whole lot of confidence, but I also use Zula Alpha. A lot of the same reasons you use.
Yeah, and, Canessa, too, this one making his first start. Really sharp distance races, but a while back, this horse better than I did. He was second in the 2-mile Belmont Gold Cup and beating the neck in the 12 furlong Stars and Stripes. Hasn't been around since Arlington. Arnold Delacour, I really like this guy. He's strong off the layup, so I'm going to keep him on the ticket. But I really like Zulu Alpha in there.
And then I said you have Solio in the 3rd spot, so you have a 4-7-2. I have a 4-7-2.
We're thinking alike. I don't know if that's good for you or not, but yeah, that's how I look at these races when they get up to that 12 furlong distance.
I'm rooting for you in the McKnight anyway. We'll see in the turf race, the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational. Been talking to folks during the day and getting some thoughts. And, I went with the 2 Mott horses. I put Channel Maker over Yoshida. But the more I've talked to people, this interesting condition, you get the 7 pounds with no Lasix. Aerolith and Magic Wand are getting a lot of buzz on the 12 pounds off as compared to a horse like Yoshida. So that's interesting. Where'd you go on the turf?
Well, my long shot comes in this race, and it's the 8-horse Delta Prince, 15-1 on the morning line. This one, grade 1, stakes place, Son of Street Cry. Bred to love this distance, stretches out. I just see this horse sitting on a big race. It's Jimmy Jerkin. He's going to remove the blinkers this afternoon, and he's got Frankie Dettori atop the Son of Street Car. I'm looking for a price in here. I know that the buzz is all about, the 7-pound weight in here, which makes a big difference when you're going, this distance. But I just like this horse today. I think he's sitting on the top. I'm hoping I get that price. I don't know if it will with Frankie Dettori just because he's a name jock. And, the other horse that really pointed himself out to me was Bricks and Mortar, a perfect 2-for-2 over his course. He looked fantastic schooling here the other day.
Yeah, Delta Prince is the one I left out of my mix that scares me the most, so I can't disagree with anything you said. All right, let's go on to the big race, the the Pegasus World Classic Invitational, mile and an eighth. To me, and I think for most people, it's going to go through Accelerate and City of Light. I use those 2 on top with Accelerate just over City of Light. But you know better than anybody because you're based down here. Gunavera, I think, is interesting in this race as well. What are your thoughts on the Pegasus?
I wanted to put Gunavera on top so much I just couldn't do it. 8 for 9 in the money on this track that will parlay his horse for course status. But you know what? I chalked out in this. I didn't want to. I couldn't find like a Delta Prince in the turf. I went to Accelerate City of Light. Now, City of Light has just been touting himself all over this place. But Accelerate, he just seems to me that he's too tough for these guys. And John Sandler, this horse, the trainer, Joel Rosario in the saddle, just has this horse looking great. He shipped in a little later than everybody else, but we don't have the concerns tomorrow of the hot weather.
I do like that City of Light shipped in and got to work over the track for Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And, and then Gunavera, he's the fan favorite. Everybody's going to be rooting for him. He needs things to play out just the right way. But I was so impressed with his performances, in the Breeders' Cup Classic and, of course, up at Saratoga. This horse is game, and he seems to be coming into himself. So my heart is with Gunavera, but my money's going to be on Accelerate.
And you're based down here, so I'll get your opinion because I've been saying it for about a week and a half or so. Going back 3 weeks, 4 weeks, Antonio Sano was ice cold. And then he seemed to turn it around the last couple of weeks. And on that handicapping show on Thursday, I touted that 35-1 shot that ran second for him on Thursday.
Well, his barn is famous for doing that. They just cool, and all of a sudden they explode and they get some, graces going in, and we'll see how this horse runs in there. And, the other thing we had here was D. Wayne Lucas all around, and he's got bravado. Another horse that I'm using my super. One main reason Louis Saez riding this horse, I can't lead this horse off the ticket. I mean, Louis just somehow gets horses to win that you can't believe will win. So, that's one of the horses I'm putting underneath. I didn't want to chalk out, but I sort of did in that one, in that particular race. And swinging for the fences and other ones.
Ron, appreciate the conversation as always. Good luck.
Always good to talk to you, Seth.
All right, welcome back live from Gulfstream Park, racing across America with Seth Merrill. Appreciate all the guests. Again, we were kind of running around trying to plug some people in yesterday, so we managed to get Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum, Kiaran McLaughlin with Dream Pauline and True Timber in today, Irad Ortiz, fresh off his Eclipse victory, pattern recognition, World of Trouble, a couple of the entrants he'll have this afternoon. Tommy Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds. They have Breaking Lucky in the Hooper. We also chatted with Pat Cummings from the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation, and just now, Ron Nicoletti. Going to try to run around, as I said at the top of the show, last year, we managed to get a lot of really good interviews on the day of the races, just kind of popping out to the winner's circle, caught up with Steve Asmussen and Florent Giraud. I'm trying to it was I counted the interviews at the end of the weekend. I think I had run around and done about 20 interviews. I don't know whether I can promise that today because of the weather. It was raining when we came on. It let up a little bit. It looks like it is sprinkling again, not as heavy as it was when we first came on, but it has been confirmed. We said at the top of the show, Mark Hennig had tweeted out 1, 3, and 5 are off. The changes and scratches are up now at the Gulfstream site. Yes, 1, 3, and 5 are off the turf, so check your scratches and whatnot as well. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. Bringing in now, sitting next to me, live right here, Sully Crotty. Sully, good morning.
Seth, how are you? It's a little, we're complaining that it's a little cold, but it's better than the wind chill of 1 degree up north. So.
You did say, though, and you made the right move. You said you were thinking of wearing shorts today. Yeah, this is not a shorts day by any means. And it's just it's a little bit raw, but it is, Florida raw as compared to Albany raw at this time. Dave? Yeah. Dave Joseph walking by from Gulfstream Park. He's just checking things out around the facility. Tim Ritvo walked by a couple of minutes ago. And Sully, you and I jumping in all afternoon. Want to alert people also. I had you checking, and you gave me the thumbs up as I was talking. I had you checking. People still can jump on board for today's online bankroll, correct?
Correct, yeah. So 25 patrons will be randomly chosen, and you have till 12 p.m. to sign up. So that'll be right around race 2. So entries will close at 12 o'clock, and then Mike will be wagering from 2 to 6 today. And then the online bankroll team will be posted I want to say 1:45 to 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Very good. So until noontime to jump on board and get your chance to be part of the bankroll team. $500 bankroll from Mike Callahan this afternoon. Wish Mike a lot of luck. And it should be a lot of fun playing on this Pegasus World Cup card. Hopefully, as I say, we're knocking wood that the weather holds up and it doesn't get no more off the turf than we have at this point, as it is 1, 3, and 5. But we'll be in all afternoon. We'll update you on all those situations. We're sitting second floor up, looking over the paddock, and great spot. That's where we have been all our visits here at Gulfstream Park, just outside of 10 Palms, if you're familiar with Gulfstream. And it's a great location that gives us a lot of access. But what I was getting to also earlier, hopefully I can jump around and get a lot of nice interviews, but given the weather, I'm not sure it'll be as prolific as last year, just because I think there's if the weather holds up, I think this inside is going to start to get crowded. It was crowded last year, but folks with the weather had a lot more outside space to fill up. So if this place starts to get crowded, to get from our second floor to down in the winner's circle, for instance, or even down to the paddock, really. Yeah. It takes it takes some time, and if that starts to double up or whatnot, may not be able to bounce around and get as many interviews as we would like. But we'll certainly be out there giving it our best, and hopefully toss in some comments from some of the participants as the afternoon goes along. But we will be giving you a live look regardless and our opinions throughout the afternoon. Hopefully some good ideas there. Also want to remind you it's a 1% bonus day with your Aqueduct wagers via capitalotbbet.com. Check out the website for restrictions and requirements with that, but it's a 1% bonus day, Aqueduct wagers. All right. First post is 11:30, so we'll wind things up for this edition of Racing Across America. As I say, Sully and I will be with you all afternoon long. I expect with the 11:30 post time, Sully will probably jump in 11:15, something like that.
Yeah, you know, we would think we're going to let the paddock commentary go with Ron and Jason, then we'll jump on. So
and that'll be the game plan throughout the kind of try to coordinate with what they have to say, and then jump in appropriately and give some of our thoughts and whatnot. And as I say, hopefully some interviews as well as the afternoon progresses. I'll tell you, Sully, I was saying, wondering how crowded it will be. I'm looking out, and with the weather right now, it's not very crowded, being an hour and a half away. But it is an hour and a half away, and also on big days like this, it doesn't start to fill up until you get to mid-afternoon anyway. So it's hard to judge the crowd at this point.
Definitely, we get that up at Saratoga as well. As the afternoon progresses, more and more people come, and the more crowded it gets. So. But the wind stopped as of now, so it's not as cold as it was this morning, and the rain is barely coming down. So hopefully it gets a little bit better as the afternoon progresses. So just hoping for the best.
Fingers crossed. At this point, the weather a little dicey, but it is still very, very early. And again, we're about an hour and a half away from first post time here at Gulfstream Park. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrill, Sully Karate. Again, we'll be back in, an hour and a half or so to kick things off for this Pegasus World Cup Day coverage live from Gulfstream Park. We invite you to watch all afternoon long and enjoy our live cut-ins. All right, wrapping it up. Wishing you a lot of good luck. Oh man, I'm coughing, and the wind was blowing. The wind has cut down though, so that's a good sign. But again, we'll absolutely keep you updated from our perch here all afternoon long as to how the weather is affecting things here at Gulfstream. So again, you're invited to stay tuned and enjoy the action. First post just about an hour and a half away. We'll be on a little bit before that, so we'll see you then.
Capital Off-Track Betting.